park employees, what are some cool secrets about your workplace? Story 1. I work a part-time job at Disneyland as a Gibson Girl person who works at the Gibson Girl ice cream shop, Coke's Corner, Cone Shop, basically any quick service place in Main Street, and have found out a lot of things. We aren't allowed to point with one finger, pretty much everyone knows this one. The rumor about there being a basketball court inside Matterhorn Mountain is false, but not entirely false. While there isn't a big basketball court, there's a basketball hoop that is downstairs that employees who perform maintenance on the ride sometimes use when on break. The wires hanging around the park are used by the cast member who plays Tinkerbell. She zips around the park on a zip line during the parade that has the best job ever. Never get soda from the cone shop, don't ask. The apartment Walt Disney lived in while building the park is located here. When he was in the park, the light in front of the apartment would be lit as a sign. We still turn the light on as a symbol of how he still is with us in spirit. Apparently, this is the single most hardest place to get into. I haven't been inside. There is a huge waiting list, and important people, movie stars, politicians, etc., are the #1 priority. Peter Pan is a big-time smoker SHHH. There are loads of plain-clothes security and police working undercover in the park. We have our own fire department. I've heard Walt Disney World has its own fire department, EMT unit, Secret Service, police station, and even has a certified heart surgeon. We have accidents of all sorts on a daily basis, and the only time something will get on the news is when someone dies or is injured severely on a ride. On Monday, a lady had a heart attack riding It's a Small World. You, the park guests, can pretty much get away with a lot as long as it isn't illegal in nature. We aren't really allowed to say no to you. We're pretty much your yes. We aren't allowed to say, I don't know either. We have to find a solution for you no matter what. If you were to drop your ice cream cone, food, etc., we are obligated to give you another free of cost. We're all secretly miserable. Even Tinkerbell, edit more that I remembered, cameras are everywhere. And I mean everywhere except the bathroom, of course, I hope. Some people like throwing the ashes of a recently cremated loved one at the Haunted Mansion sometimes, and when this happens, the ride has to be closed down and hazmat units are called in. The ride's employees hate working It's a Small World, Pirates of the Caribbean, and Roger Rabbit. Why? Because they're rather creepy. And back in the 70s, an employee died at It's a Small World, the America Sings attraction, and everyone nowadays says that it happened at It's a Small World. She was crushed between 2 revolving doors that separate the backstage area from the front stage. The doors were removed after the incident. Someone was dragged under the teacups. Once they survived, the only places to get alcohol in Disneyland are Ariel's Grotto in Disney California Adventure and Club 33. Forget about ever getting in there. Just keep in mind there's a 10-year waiting list to get in. Backstreet Boy Kevin Richardson used to work at Disneyland dressed up as Aladdin. Steve Martin worked at the Magic Store. Michelle Pfeiffer was Alice. And apparently Robin Williams used to sell maps there. I'm not sure about that one. You really do get to see famous people every now and then. Believe me or not. I saw Keanu Reeves 2 weeks ago. Kobe Bryant is a regular and loves taking his kid there all the time. Lucky girl. A lot of girls riding Splash Mountain and Space Mountain tend to lift their shirts while getting their picture taken, but unforgivably, we have a system in place that now prevents such pictures from popping up. Jerks. I think the only ride you can get away with this is on California Screamin', but it's rather hard lifting your shirt up on that ride on the account of it being a roller coaster. You have to time it right after the loop. The timing is on the 2 hills before Toy Story Mania. Hey, race a video. As a Disneyland employee, you get loads of discounts from places you wouldn't even think you would get a discount from. McDonald's, Subway, ATT, Sprint, etc. As an employee, I can get into the park whenever I want. I just have to use my ID. It's just guests I invite in that are regulated, and if they aren't related to me in any way, I have to be with them at all times. A lot of people have died of heart attacks on the Haunted Mansion, believe it or not. There's this rumor about some lady having a dream she was going to die if she went on it that prevented her from riding and saved her life, but I don't know how true that is. I have more which I will post as soon as I remember them. No more for now. Edit. I tried editing it for accuracy, but I'm kind of feeling like a lazy double ninja. Edit. Disclaimer. I'm just a lowly Gibson girl. My facts should be taken with precaution. Story 2. At my park, we spared no expense. We tell the public that we breed all the dinosaurs on our island, but that just isn't true. When you're working with such volatile things as extinct animals, the yield isn't 100, so we actually do most of our breeding and research on a second island a few miles away. Story 3. Some Cedar Point secrets. Some of these are from friends who have worked around the park. You probably already knew this, but that $3.50 bottle of soda is 1,002 steps behind an employee gate. Same goes for most of the food in the cafeteria. On most of the larger attractions and rides, we have a system of signals and gestures to make fun of you behind your back. It keeps the long, repetitive, and hot day somewhat interesting. Never, ever, ever will we tell you what is wrong with a ride. Also, we'll never tell you when it's going to be up. The only differentiation we can make is if we're told it's going to be a multiple-hour fix. At that point, we anticipate a lengthy delay. Yup, we usually know what is wrong and how long it's going to take. Employee dorms could probably double for a gay male brothel. Many times we're instructed to take cars off of the coaster simply because of attendance numbers. They don't tell us that officially. Simply no need to have 33 cars on the track when the park is at 50 capacity. Yep, that makes lines longer, sorry. Disaster Transport 1 3D glasses are a ripoff considering how short the ride is. But you already knew that. It's fun to watch you flash the ride cameras. We block the pictures on the monitors but can still see them behind the counter. We can also unblock them. All I can think of. Story 4 worked at Six Flags Great Adventure, New Jersey at the start of this season, and a few years ago, there's only one place employees can get food in the park we can't eat, where guests eat. It's called a backstage diner, and it is employee only, right behind the go-karts. The food there is exactly what you get in the park for the same price. They do not have napkins. I swear to God, I looked for napkins every time I was there and found nothing. You can either sit in the high school cafeteria like inside, or the picnic tables outside. Everyone is depressed. They have a social media policy that forbids you from talking about the park on Facebook with a rec, and they do check. I purposefully mocked them online in order to get fired. And it worked. Well, they were going to suspend me from work for a week, but I was like, nah, dude, him out. Employees cannot have facial hair except for mustaches. I was reprimanded for having a 5 o'clock shadow twice. And one time I was stopped by a security guard and not allowed in the employee entrance because of it until I shaved. So I had to wait for the little convenience shop near the employee parking lot to open to buy a razor. They were out. I snuck past the guard, that guy. Actually, you get stopped a lot if you're not complying with their arbitrary aesthetic guidelines. No belt, no entry, wrong belt, no entry, shirt not tucked in, no entry, sideburns go past earlobes, no entry, no name tag, no entry, name tag covered by jacket, no entry, hoodie hood outside a flimsy Six Flags rain poncho, no entry. They have secret shopper types that make sure you're doing the stupid you're supposed to be doing, like telling people have a Six Flags day. I never did that once. When you get your uniform, you have to try it on in this big concrete locker room type place with no stalls and just one bench. When I did it, there's some old guy just walking around in there. As an employee, you're not allowed to carry more than 20 cash on you, just so guests can't claim you are pocketing money from the register. Also, why we can't accept tips. The person that dresses up as Wonder Woman does not actually have superpowers, or is even an Amazonian. As an employee, you cannot visit the park as a guest on the same day you're scheduled to work. So I can't get off work at 6 and go ride Superman before I leave. There's an entire abandoned chunk of the park behind the normal attractions that employees walk through, and it is creepy, like burned down circus creepy. The managers are understaffed and unorganized, which was the worst part for me. You had to call one of them and wait for them to walk across the whole park, just so you could take a bathroom break. But before you go, you have to take your money out of the register into a bag and lock in a box. Then come back and put it back in a register as they watch. You can't do anything without someone there making sure you aren't piles of money into your pockets. This is why you'll still be there an hour after you were scheduled to leave. The security guards stare at the elementary school dance groups, stretching in the employee-only areas. Time and time again, whenever they want to show you a model employee, it's some Asperger's robot who has a creepy smile plastered on their face, 247, that probably goes home to their elderly parents and cats looking forward to working at this the next day. Edit O. More there is a money incentive for snitching. If you snitch on someone and they're found doing something worthy enough of a firing, you get 100. I actually snitched on this guy who pocketed a customer's money, but nothing happened. He wasn't even fired. Most of the employees are teenagers with no authority and no idea what's happening. The caricatures, henna, Daredevil dive, face paint, and airbrush t-shirts are managed by 2 people. You know how we have to wait for a manager to do anything. You will be waiting for a while for that bathroom break. There are these things called maps that show you everything that is in the park. You totally don't have to stop me on my way to my depressing break to hold your hand and walk you to the bathroom. Edit OK, here are some actual secrets the guest can benefit from. They have this free service that nearly no one knows about. If you buy something at a retail store, you can leave it at the store and they will deliver it to the exit for pickup whenever you leave. You get discounts all over the place with your season pass. Whip it out. They have this deal now that if you pay with Discover Card anywhere in the park, you get 5 off automatically. When you park, go all the way and park in the back right corner. There's an exit there that connects to the employee parking lot, and you're guaranteed to not be stuck and lets GTFO of your traffic. You can also get into the employee lot this way. So go ahead and park there. No one cares. If you need something important or want to complain, don't ask us schmucks in the fluorescent green shirts. Ask the people with button-up shirts and ties carrying clipboards. In the morning, before they open, they let people wait by the big fountain near the entrance, but block off the park until the exact minute the park opens. As the park opens, the entire crowd runs to whatever coaster they want to be first on. Don't do this, If you have a group of 3 or more, play the game that involves shooting water into a target to blow up a balloon. One of you is guaranteed to win. So as long as no one else joins, one of you will get a prize. The game where you have to balance on a rope ladder that is angled 150 degrees and ring the bell at the top. No one ever wins. Caricature artists need to be drawing every 15 minutes, so while occasionally offer people free demos, this means we demonstrate how you'd look if we drew you read, we draw your caricature. And if you want to buy it, you can. Otherwise, we leave it at the stand. They tell us to sell it full price, but you can talk us down to 5. I hate to be the one to spoil it for everyone, but the characters that you see walking around are actually just people in costumes. Hopefully, I didn't shatter too many childhood dreams. Story 5, not really theme park, but I used to work at Chuck E. Cheese. Secret, pretty much everyone there hates kids with an undying fury. One time, a friend of mine started his first day, and we had him in the Chuck E. costume, and a kid came up and punched him in the without flinching. My friend decked the little right in the face. His parents weren't around, so we rushed my friend to the back and told the parents the kid fell. Needless to say, my friend was fired that same day. Story 6, so I work at California's Great America. Don't buy water. The food places are required to give it to you for free if you see someone walking around. Don't stop them. They're most likely on their way to clock into work. You will only receive half-assed help. You are better off going to the store and asking the cashier. Don't try to return anything. It will waste a fuck ton of your time, our time, and off every level of employee in the store. We need top-level approval for returns by a season pass. It pays itself off in 2 visits if you plan on going more than once. Then this is the ideal choice. There's backstage that goes literally everywhere. There's a boiler room in the water park that is notorious for having plenty of lifeguards inside of. Be nice. We can easily give you discounts if we want. If someone gives you a secret discount, don't tell another employee. Chances are it'll get over and no one wants to deal with. Don't play with these guns. The people in the store hear those every day of our lives. We as well cannot point with one finger or say, I do not know, we are pretty much run like high school. Yes, when you see a person carrying a large rectangular plastic bag that looks heavy, it is money. Don't interrupt these guys. They're usually in a hurry. We do not sell any gum in the park, for obvious reasons. Story 7, I didn't work at a theme park, but my high school English teacher worked for Disneyland while he was in college and told us stories a lot. He said Chip and Dale were the most disgusting guys ever and would have contests to see who could the most MILFs in a day. Story 8, I worked at a small amusement park in Maine for a summer. Basic stuff: teacups, log flume, pirate ship, antique cars, go-karts, a wooden roller coaster that was 10 the world for a few years. Some of the jobs were horrid, others weren't so bad. One of the worst jobs was called Tower. If you saw your name listed next to Tower, you knew that you were in for 8 hours sitting at the top of the log flume slide, watching people make fools of themselves. I really never minded it. They let me bring a notebook and a pen, so I would write basically all day. It was during my productive period. I was assigned to Tower at the beginning of a shift and was walking from the employee area to the log flume when I suddenly heard a loud boom. My radio lit up and everyone with one was told, get a flume now. We all went running. Apparently, the pump for the flume had exploded, stranding people on the belt going up the slide. One cart was literally stuck at the end of the slide, and carts were backing up at the start of the belt and sinking, with people in them. It was awesome chaos. The pump was smoking, the tower swaying madly. People freaking out everywhere, children crying. Story 9, here are some secrets from the wizarding world of Harry Potter. The costumes worn by the team members were designed by Potter costume designer Janie Temmie. Some of the Hogwarts costumes worn by TMs working Harry Potter and The Forbidden Journey were actually used in the films and worn by extras. TMs working Harry Potter and The Forbidden Journey are sorted into houses based on their height. Universal operations, merchandise, and food service TMs may usually wear their work wardrobe home. However, the Wizarding World wardrobe items are the only wardrobe items that these TMs may not take home. TMs caught doing so will be immediately terminated and may face criminal charges for theft and IP theft if they do so. After the Three Broomsticks restaurant was designed, the real film set was altered to more closely resemble the theme park restaurant. The male dress robe seen in the Gladrags Wizarding World storefront are the same ones worn by Daniel Radcliffe in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. The female dress robes are an exact replica of the ones worn by Emma Watson in the same film. Edit and Moya, the TMs who work in that area, are encouraged to act in character. But they may not say anything that would add to the Harry Potter story. For example, they may not say they know Harry, Dumbledore, or any of the characters, or say what those characters may or may not like or do. For example, If you see a little girl with a stuffed cat, you can say, I like your kitty. I have a kitty like that at home. You may not say, oh, they'll bet Hermione would like your kitty. Story 10. Busch Gardens. No, we're not owned by Disney. No, your Disney passes will not work here. No, not Universal either. Do your tickets say Busch Gardens on them? No, then please buy a ticket. No, you may not get in for free because you have Disney passes. Also, no, let it cry all you want, the one sitting in the AC. Disability passes available at guest services are free and allow you to wait the time of a line anywhere you please. Make sure you tell them you have some form of autism and no broken bones. You can put up to 6 people on that pass with you. Take it to the ride attendant, and they'll give you a pass for X amount of minutes. Come back after those minutes, and you go straight to the front of the line. Working the Hello Scream events are more fun than you can possibly imagine. If you want to make a quick 1,000 in a month and sacrifice all your weekends in October, be prepared to have some injuries from repetitive motions, and be prepared to be cursed at, hit, and spat on. The seats in the middle of rows 5 and 6 on Montu are meant for heavier set people. The drivers at Rhino Rally are actually driving those trucks. No, they're not on tracks. We go through hours and hours and hours of training and observation to be able to drive those enormous rovers. Yes, sometimes the rhinos do charge towards the trucks. It's nothing to be scared about, though. You can get small ticket discounts for friends with a fun card. If you need to eat in the theme park, go to the Zambia Smokehouse. More bang for your buck? Order your drinks without ice. You'll get double the amount. If you come to guest services complaining about how it's raining on a day that was forecast for a hurricane, we will not be sympathetic. Please read the weather forecast before you come to the theme park. When you're perched 200 feet up on Shikara, waiting for that drop, you're being held up there by a small, tiny latch of metal. If you're going to be at the park all day and you want a drink snack, shell out for the souvenir cup bucket. Refills are absolutely dirt cheap. Whenever you buy anything in the park, just ask the shop vendor, and they'll send it to guest services at the front, so you can pick it up later free if you go to June Gala early enough in the morning and hang around the White Tigers for a bit. You may have a chance to play tug-of-war with one of them. In the mid-morning on a slowish day, you can pay for regular parking, then just drive into the preferred parking lot to park. Noon checks. Also, if you get to the park about an hour and a half to closing, the toll booths usually aren't manned. Half the time that you're on Montu, most of the mechanism isn't touching the track, just a couple guiding ball bearings. Unless you're there in the summer at night, don't try to do anything stupid on the sky ride. There are cameras everywhere with no blind spots. I can't think of any more right now, but I'll be happy to take questions. Story 11. The auditions for characters are tough. To be a face character, they line you up and analyze your bone structure before they do anything else. If your figure, height, and bone structure aren't right, you don't even get to go any further in the audition. It's fun though. 3 plus the underground passages in the main park, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, are pretty awesome, but can be creepy. They aren't all bright and colorful. It's a tunnel system, not an attraction. My childhood nearly fell to pieces when I saw a bench with my favorite characters' heads all lined up in a row on it. Story 12. It is no longer available. But SeaWorld used to serve free beer. As a resident of San Diego, I would buy an annual pass for $74, drive to SeaWorld a few times a week after work, drink a few free beers, and go home. Sadly, it ended in 2009, but boy howdy was it great while it lasted. Story 13. Worked at Disney World. One of the more interesting things about the area is that Disney World is essentially its own municipality, the Reedy Creek Improvement District, which is wholly owned and operated by Disney. It's a little more complicated than this. But in simple terms, the company is the mayor and town council, and they have pretty much all the powers of any other town. Read about it on Wikipedia here. Story 14. Water is by law free if you go up to any food stand and ask for it. But if you ask for magic water, I guarantee that 9 times out of 10, you'll get a free cup of Sprite. Story 15. It's really hard to sign the autographs in some of the costumes. In some of the characters, you look through the mouth, but have to act like you're looking with the eyes of the character, which means most of their head is above your own. The heads can be really frickin' heavy and stuffy. Lilo was the worst, plus the water parks are really humid. I almost passed out. CPs at Disney World get free Gatorade. It's the yellow kind. Every Disney prince I met was a gay man. Getting free park entrées was the best part of working there. The pay was the worst. If you see a character rub their eye, it means they need to go backstage because they're going to pass out, feel sick, or having some sort of costume malfunction. I had to do this twice as Lilo because that costume was frickin' terrible. Story 16. Spent a summer working games at Hershey Park. Not the most exciting things to be learned, but here we go. All the popular games have cameras installed in them. That means ring toss. Ring toss is 4 cameras. It's because if the attendant gets distracted and a ring lands on the outer 2 ring of bottles, you have to call it in. People notoriously have little kids lean over and just place it and try and guilt the attendant into giving away big bears when you play wacky winding wires. By July, all of the new employees can beat that game. Does not mean we will bend the rules if we hear that annoying buzzer. But it also doesn't mean we can't tell you which game station has a smaller ring or larger ring. It can make a large difference. Only one place in the entire park sells beer, and that is the Minetown Cafe right by the Great Bear. Check out the smoothie place in the food court area. They are amazing and vastly underrated. Every year, one of all profits from Hershey Park and Hershey's chocolate goes to the Milton Hershey School, which was originally a school for orphans, but will now also help kids whose parents can't afford to send them to school. This means the school will never go bankrupt. Ever. That school is worth over $1 billion. If you live somewhere close to Hershey Park, make friends with the employees. They get 2 free tickets per paycheck, 15 off everything in the park, and 25 off everything in Chocolate World. This means make friends with an employee, give them your money, and make them buy your chocolate for you. Employees can buy the prizes in the game stalls. I know you are thinking, hood, buy a shitty dolphin that costs less than a nickel to make, but love giant teddy bears as big as them, and they make great birthday gifts. Does not mean we can buy them for guests. This can get us fired. If you're thirsty, but also a cheapskate, food vendors can give out free cups of water. Employees have their own cafe outside the park. It's got all the foods we serve in park minus the delicious smoothies go are like 75 off. Those 8 burgers are only 2 and are made to order unlike the generic cheeseburger you get in park. We also had a weekly meal such as Salisbury steak, breakfast for lunch, etc. All I got for now. If I think of some later, I'll add in. Feel free to ask about my time there. Story 17, not an employee, but apparently theme parks take sneaking in pretty seriously. I sat drunkenly in interrogation for over an hour tonight and had to bail my friend out of jail because he told the lady cop to off. You fat. We went in under a fence and got snagged pretty quickly. Overall, worth a 4th-degree misdemeanor. Story 18. I used to work at a place called Camelot Theme Park. It's a modest place in the northwest of England. It was also my first job. I was rides operator, but worked in what they called Section 1, which was the part of the park with all the kids' rides. Years before work there, some employee was apparently killed after being hit by a roller coaster during safety checks, but I'm not sure how much of that is myth. Anyway, relating to the how things work bit in this question, there was a ride there that had been around since it opened in the mid-'80s known as the Caterpillar Apple Ride. The cart train was modeled on a giant caterpillar, and it went through a big red apple halfway around the track. It was aimed at toddlers and small kids, really, but by God, it was the most primitive roller coaster I've ever seen. Apart from the chain that pulled it up to the top of the main dip, it ran completely on gravity, and to start the ride, you released the brakes, which were clamps on the tracks, not the cart itself, and literally had to push it out of the station. If you didn't push it hard enough, it would slow down and stop before the foot of the hill, and you'd have to call maintenance to get the stranded people out. My first day operating the ride. The brakes were faulty. It was only meant to go around the track twice. I ended up making it go round 15 times. Story 19. Here are some better Cedar Point secrets. Most employees who used to work on rides have taken excess ride parts that were never installed. I have a limit switch and some other minor items. Some of my friends have old seat belts and proxies. Yeah, we can never tell you what is wrong with the ride or how long it's going to be down, but we almost always know exactly what's wrong and about how long it's going to take. No, we usually don't have stupid hand gestures for behind your back. Well, maybe some rides do, but none of the 8 rides I worked on did. Dragster is running super slow this year because there's no multi-move due to a train throwing off some procs when running like that. If people actually know what this means, they'll explain more. The red phone on the rides are not the bad phones that everyone thinks they are. They are the phones used for communication on a ride. It's the white phone that goes to outside places, maintenance, park operation, etc. Someone mentioned the overpriced soda, but it gets worse. I'm pretty sure Cedar Point gets all the soda for free from Pepsi, since Pepsi likes advertising in the park. Beach Boys plays in the queue lines because people were trying to appease Kinzel Cedar Fair CO. If you're into a ride operator, you will probably be stapled to your seat during the ride. The employee quality may have seemed to go down there. That's because everyone that was well-trained on the rides left because of how terrible they treat their employees and how much they overwork them. No overtime. Ohio seasonal employment exemption written for amusement parks that Cedar Point specifically lobbied for. People have crazy stories about bad stuff happening in the park, but Cedar Point is one of the safest parks in the world by far. Like, it's not even a question if you see what goes down at other parks. Dash, one of the most dangerous rides in the park is Sky Ride. You have the slowly floating cabins. People at the other end have to slow and stop them manually. At full capacity, they're coming in every 7 seconds. Cedar Point is the only park left with a ride like this, possibly because they have never had a serious accident on it. There are lots more, but those are some of the basics at WDW's Magic Kingdom. The food served in the employee cafeteria or mouseketeria is not the same food served to the guests. It's run by Aramark Food Services and is much worse. There's a Subway restaurant down there. They also run, but they don't participate in any national subway promotions 500 footlongs. Nope, still, it's cheaper than the food served topside. And if you're caught taking food from the cafeteria to the top, especially if you're buying it for visiting family or friends who are playing in the park, you can be fired. Story 20, I worked for a long time at Santa's Village in Sky Forest, California. It's closed now, but it was pretty famous to Southern Californians at the time. There was a dead rat in the nacho machine under the metal slope that holds the chips at the Pixie Pantry for at least a year. We had dead rats pretty much everywhere, just out of sight. The deep fryer oil in the Pixie Pantry was never changed. The insects were just scooped out with a mesh spoon. All the burgers were cooked in the morning and kept in a bucket of water until someone ordered one. Most of the order fresh food vendors were clean enough. Santa Claus was a huge chain smoker. He smelled horrible. The B monorail was known to catch on fire. The bobsled coaster derailed at least once, sending the riders to the hospital. We had a similar accident with the horse-drawn carriage. I don't think any ride operators were actually trained for emergencies. Kids puke a lot. You probably already knew that. Story 21, I worked last summer for Valley Fair, a park in Minnesota owned by the people who own Cedar Fair. These aren't as cool as the Disney World ones, but I have a few. Behind a Renegade coaster is an original Edsel Ranger sitting on a grassy hill. I don't know what it's for, and no one there I asked seems to know either. Buy a season pass. As of last year, parking is included, and they cost $60 at the beginning of the season. Regular admission is $48, and parking is $10. Our lifeguards are completely incompetent. They get audited randomly throughout the season, where the company stages an emergency, and the guards have to save someone. Almost all of them fail and have to go through training again. People lose a ton of money on rides. I work in park services, park cleanup, and once found 28 in a day just in bills dropped from a roller coaster. Story 22, I worked for Worlds of Fun out in Kansas City for about 7 years. I have a few things to add, but the other Cedar Fair parks seem to have it on the money. These are mostly game-related things, since that was my department despite what you may choose to believe. In games, we actually want you to win. How many times you win now, that's debatable. A side point of the games, they're all winnable. Some of them are just really, really hard. If you have a little kid and are generally pretty nice to the employee in the game and your kid doesn't win, most of us will generally be really nice and let them try again for free or give them some smaller plush for trying. No, we cannot sell giant plush till you stop asking. Yes, we really do have cameras in all the games, and they do work. Seriously, we cannot sell to you or give you something for free. 3-point challenge at any Cedar Fair park is completely winnable. I've seen it done. Management, unless you're in a leadership position, will hate you. It's just a fact you have to face. It is actually ridiculously hard to fire bad employees. I have no idea why, but it took us 3 months to fire someone who was tardy literally every single day by at least an hour, and sometimes never showed up for a shift. Red means stop. Red tags are jailbait. A red tag is any employee between 15 or 14 years old eat before you get there. The food is, and where it's made is worse. You can also leave and come back and just pay for parking again. It's way better than getting terrible overpriced food. The Prowler, Mamba, and Monsoon, and the best rides in the park. And the only ones that don't break down at the drop of a dime. If you have a friend that works at the park and is willing to do so, have them use your vehicle information for an additional employee parking pass. You get an extra for free. This plus a season pass equals extra savings. Story 23, not sure if it's a secret, but Disney World has an entire underground system of accessible walking passages. You can crawl down one manhole in Frontierland and pop up in Tomorrowland, but it's really like a bunch of cement hallways and doors. Story 24, I don't work anywhere cool like Disneyland or Cedar Point, but I did work at a small local amusement park. The big secret here is that some of these rides are more dangerous than they look, and all of them are staffed by minimum wage high school or college students. It's a winning combination. Also, the park has paid people to keep quiet about injuries. I'm unsure if that's common practice in the amusement world. Story 25, Universal Islands of Adventure. Cats. Everywhere. Seriously. If you work at Highway and walk through the park at nighttime, don't stop. They're watching you. Hunting. Story 26, I used to work at a theme park called Santa's Village about 10 years ago. My first day, they quickly certified me to run the big roller coaster they had. I had no idea what I was doing, so I'm standing there watching the cars go around, and I noticed a huge beam that holds the coaster up is snapped in half. It was attached to the ground and attached to the track, but was snapped in half, and the part hanging from the track was swinging in the wind and pulling the track down with it. The maintenance guys quickly welded it back together and reopened the ride. I also drove this fire truck thing where a miniature house would catch on fire and the fire truck would drive to it and the kids would use hoses to put it out. Well, one day, while driving it, the truck overheated and it caught on fire. The whole place was falling apart and nobody seemed to give a Thank God that death trap of an amusement park went bankrupt. I don't work at a theme park, but I think this is pretty cool.